So have fun with your chicken and brat. Do not beat yourself up about it. This is not stuff to beat yourself up about. Have fun with hearing them and then getting yourselves in promises and consequences. And even when you break the promise and have to pay the consequence, and that's annoying, the moment you pay it, you're back in integrity and you're back to square one again, and you're winning already.
Namaste. You're listening to the Savannah Podcast. Join us on an exploration of Eastern spirituality, yoga philosophy, and conscious living for the new age. This podcast is a production of SavannahSpirit.com, the best place to shop for unique clothing, spiritual handcrafted jewelry, healing gemstones, and fair trade gifts from the Far East. Now, here's your host, Brett Larkin.
Hello, Savannah family. Welcome back. We are picking up our interview of Beth Weissenberger, and she is telling us all about personal integrity, promises, and consequences, and we're diving deeper now into how to have hard conversations with the people in our life. Beth, before on Tuesday, you were telling us about the three voices in our head, the brat, the chicken, and the weather reporter. So listeners, if you missed that, definitely go check out Tuesday's episode because it's really, really interesting. It's very similar to observing our thoughts in meditation, and it's actually a really useful tool that if you meditate, you can use this offering of the Handel group and Beth's work to help identify these voices in your head, just kind of in a different way. I think it's really helpful. And one of the things we need to do in order to raise consciousness, according to Beth, is to get our inner dialogue on a leash. So do not let your inner dialogue be negative. Do not let your inner dialogue run wild. Your inner dialogue is dictating your actions. So you want to get these voices in your head, the voices in our head that are not really us, that we don't want, this brat, chicken, and weather reporter on a tight leash. And Beth, what I think I had an epiphany on Tuesday when we were talking, because it's like, how do you get the voices in your head on a leash? That sounds really, really hard to do. And when I think about it, it's like, oh, well, I need to tackle the voice itself. So I need to say, if I'm saying you suck, I need to say you're great, or that kind of thing. But what your methodology is saying is like, actually, no. Like, okay, don't worry about fixing each individual little voice because it's just too much. It's like you have a million thoughts a second. Instead, set up this system of promises and consequences in order to get the inner dialogue on a leash. Is that right, or am I misunderstanding something?
Hi everybody, in any area that you are not happy, proud, and effective, that you're committed to being happy, proud, and effective, your integrity's out. You're not living true to your integrity. And so first you identify who's running that area. It's going to be the chicken and the brat and the weather reporter running that area. Then after you identify that, you then want to get whichever thing is running, whether it's a chicken or a brat running, you then want to get that on a leash. You make a promise and a consequence, have someone hold you to account, and watch what happens in that area. You're going to be happy, proud, and effective because you're winning, not the chicken, brat, or weather reporter. So yes.
And this is really interesting for those of you that are listening. Like, Beth, you're saying in a particular situation, these voices, the brat, the chicken, and the weather reporter, usually it's one who sort of is like holding court and really ruling that area.
In that area. It's always a weather reporter because the weather reporter is going to explain the area. Well, I don't have time to exercise. I have 3 children. How am I supposed to meditate? I need to meditate, but I don't have time. And then I really want to, but I don't. And I know I should be dating, but I don't like the apps and there's no good men out there. Right? So there's you've got the dialogue going. That's for sure a weather reporter. And then inside of being a weather reporter, explaining how come you don't have what you want, it's either a chicken or brat. It's rare that it's both. It's one or the other. You're avoiding something and not having, for instance, a hard conversation, or you're being a brat about your commitment or something. So yes, but your job is to identify it, not just hear the voice, not do positive thinking right now with that voice. It's just to be able to go, wow, did you hear what he just said?
And then to implement this promises and consequences framework to change
Exactly. Like, enough already. I'm sick of this. I want to lose the 20 pounds. I've had it. What's the promise? What's the consequence? Who's going to hold me to account? And the moment you put that structure in, it's pretty much done. You're going to have the battle. There's going to be days you don't keep it. Pay the consequence. It will hurt. And then you're right back with integrity, right? You're right back with the integrity. And then the consequence, if it stings enough, you will likely not ever have to pay it again. If it doesn't sting enough, the rule that we do inside of our coaching is if the person breaks the promise twice, you got to up the consequence.
And this idea of having someone else that's going to hold us to it seems so critical, because otherwise you could just kind of cheat and lie to yourself.
You're just going to lie. We're all sleazebags. Come on. We're going to get away with it. We're going to lie. I've even had some clients lie to me, and then they can't take it. And they come back lying, Beth, I've been lying to you. And I'm like, oh, yay. Like, okay, we're just human. We just are unbelievable. You can be an Olympian, an NFL player, be that kind of human being, an executive running a public company. And then we've got this crap. We all do. No one doesn't have this.
And this is another thing that I love, is that it's like, just don't even take it seriously. Like, we want to raise into a much higher vibrational level of consciousness than what our inner dialogue likes to hang out in. We all have this work to do, and the promises and consequences is a really effective way to get there, and that we need a coach. And like, if you can't have a coach, it's like, have that family member or whoever be the person who's really policing you to make sure you make these changes.
Well, you're going to police and report in on it for sure. But yes, it just works, right? It's just going to work, and you're not going to want to. But it is you've tried everything else, right? How much longer do we really want to discuss that anymore? You're just not in action about it.
Right. And because I've done your work, and I've done your Design Your Life program years ago, what's interesting is that, because we want to come back to this idea of how do we get rid of the voices, right? It's like, once you start keeping your promises, what I've found is that negative voice sort of dies away naturally, because all of a sudden you're really proud of yourself. Is that what you found?
Really, be careful. No? So one of my NFL players, current NFL player, said, Beth, the week before was really good. I got my voices quiet, and then this week they talked to me, and I think I'm failing. And I'm like, I won't say his name, but it was, your voices are never going away. Like, when you're dead, maybe. I mean, and then I don't know where we're going or what's going to happen. But the name of the game is not to get rid of the voices. The name of the game is to be able to hear them, thank them, and move on. And yes, the more you live consistent with your integrity, your promises and consequences, the quieter they will be, but they're still there. If you think my voices are all gone, forget it. My voices are as real as anyone else's, and the only thing that's different is I can hear them for the most part, tell it to shut up and move on, right? So no, we don't teach how do you get rid of the voices.
This is huge. Because I think so many people, and as someone who teaches meditation regularly, I tell people this all the time, right? That if you're hearing voices in your head, and maybe you just hear voices in your head the whole time, like you set your timer to meditate 10 minutes and you're just like thinking the whole 10 minutes, I tell people that you're not doing anything wrong, right? It takes practice. It's not like one day you come to sit, or even me, who I think I have a very strong meditation practice, I come to sit, and usually for me, the first couple, sometimes minutes, are spent kind of, I call it shifting through the garbage, just kind of like hearing that verbal chatter, and then I'm able to get quiet. But that takes time. It takes a skill. And it's like, I'm really glad I asked you to, I pressed on this, because it's not like all of a sudden your brat or your chicken voice is going to turn into like the Brady Bunch family kid who's like super cheerful and always saying positive things to you. Like, unfortunately, I mean, that would be lovely, but unfortunately that's just not what happens. So like the biggest thing we're going for here is awareness. Like, these voices are never going away, and
they're part of being human. And if you're mad at them, annoyed at them, wish they were gone, you're in big trouble, versus you have them, hear them for what they are, live true to your promises and consequences, and they'll get quieter. So my voice does not talk as much as it used to about exercising. Like, I go to the gym twice a week, and then I have to do one on my own. That's the one on my own. Sometimes like, after one, it's like, really, shut up. Do we even need to have a discussion? And then that's the end of it. But I'm not annoyed that my voice still talks to me. So don't be annoyed or think there's something wrong with you. The voice is the voice. The more aware you are, the more that you're living consistent with your commitment, the quieter they get.
And bringing in a sense of humor just seems so critical, because, I really did a lot of work with judgmental thoughts. trying not to think judgmental thoughts towards anyone, especially as a teacher, because, people pick up on that. And it's really important for me in my work. But I noticed it would be interesting, like sometimes a judgmental thought would just pop into my head about like someone's outfit or something ridiculous. And that's an opportunity where you could kind of like turn on yourself. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, Brett, like you just had a judgmental thought again. You're kind of beating yourself up. But instead, what I think I'm learning and what you're saying is that it's like you just need to have a sense of humor and just be like, oh yeah, there's the judgmental voice again.
Exactly. The sense of humor. Like have fun with it. It's really quite amusing if you actually know it's not you. It's really quite amusing and you can have total fun with it. And then sometimes you can't hear it. That's why coaching, right? Because then we can hear it and we can help you through it. But yes, a sense of humor is key.
Yeah, instead of these voices dominating you, they're kind of like these little pets that you have that you keep in like the backyard or whatever.
Exactly. What did she say today?
Okay, perfect. So we've done a lot of this foundational work.
Okay.
And then according to you, we need to have some hard conversations with ourselves, with other people. What's this next piece where it's like goes beyond just us and involves us like engaging with family members or friends or coworkers or bosses or whatnot?
Yeah, we teach people if you're not going to be a chicken, right? A lot of times why we are a chicken is because no one has taught us in any school that I know, how do you have a hard conversation with someone where you need to get resolved about something. And it is hard and you don't want to hurt them and you don't want to, but you're upset and offended by what they did. And so how do you have a hard conversation? And mostly people are being chickens about having those conversations because no one's really taught you. And so we teach in our workshops in the corporate division anyway, and in life coaching, they teach it. So we teach how do you have a hard conversation? And the first thing that we will teach you is that you got to script it. You cannot, in the beginning when my sister Lauren Zander was teaching me how to have a hard conversation, every one of my hard conversations with an ex-husband, I forget who else I had a really hard one with, she had me script them. And so we teach, absolutely write it down. In fact, we just met with a CEO who went to go do his mea culpa with his team after we found out, we did interviews about what sucks about him. And so he was going to have a hard conversation with everybody who works for him. And he wrote the whole thing and brought the whole thing in. So I have sat with my script, my little write-up and said, listen, I have this because I don't want to forget anything. So write it. So that's number one.
And Beth, before we move on, sorry, because I just want to make sure, I think everyone's had the experience, like, it's like, you need to have a difficult conversation when you've had that experience, right? Of when you're like replaying an interaction with someone in your head, like over and over and over again, or something that went wrong or something that just didn't sit right. And you have that thought over and over and over and over again. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's like a signal that you need to like sit and actually have a conversation with
We have a rule of thumb at Handel, which is that if you have the same grumble, we give clients 3 times. Handel is 2. So if I have the same grumble about you 2 times, I got to go have a hard conversation with you.
Right. And this could be as small as like if I'm like, I wish my husband helped with the dishes. I wish my husband helped with the dishes. Like if I have that more than 3 times.
Gotta go talk. Because otherwise you're going to now resent him. You're not going to want to have sex with him. Like it just starts to make a mess inside of your commitment and your integrity, right? Like if it's your husband, if it's your children, if it's your family members, your value is, let me just resent them quietly. No, your value is, and this is what you're going to teach your children. No, you need to learn how to have a hard conversation.
And I think it's just funny because a lot of people think a hard conversation is, and it definitely is, like divulging something really, in your past that you lied about or like some huge thing. But it could be as like simple as, we're so many of us, I think especially women, we don't like confrontation. It could be as simple as like asking you to help me do the dishes.
Exactly. It's not even a question. Hard. Yeah, because he's going to get mad. He's going to get annoyed. He's going to roll his eyes. You don't want to have a hard conversation because you're going to get in trouble. You're going to hurt their feelings. They're going to get mad at you.
And that's like brat and chicken, right?
Right. And then it's pure chicken.
It's pure chicken. Okay.
It's usually chicken. It could be bratty. I take that back. It could be bratty, but it's usually chicken. Like, you're annoyed with your friend who always is the one who asks you, where do you want to go to dinner? And then she never listens to you. She goes where she wants and it's never what you want. And you're like, fine, I'll just pick my fights. I'll go. And then you resent her. That would be, you need to have a hard conversation. Like, really, this is your friend and you're going to let her get away with this and then be mad at her quietly? No.
Okay, so I'm glad I stopped you because this is really helpful and really important that it's like, if you have that thought more than 3 times, or a grumble, you called it.
3rd time, you got to go deal.
You got to go deal. Okay, so it could be something very simple, just like the dishes, but I'm going to script out what I'm going to say. So prepare in advance.
Good. So the most important thing where everyone screws up is the first part of the conversation is the key. You have to frame it. You have to create a context for it. You can't just go in. I can't just go, Brett, could you, how many times do I have to ask you to empty the dishwasher? That's our rules. I don't understand why you just don't empty the dishwasher every night. I tell you to empty okay, no, you're going to now have a fight. That conversation is going to be ugly. That is not what you do. You can't just go right in and attack. Okay, that's where most of us get in big trouble and why you don't want to have any more hard conversations because you've sucked at them.
And Beth, wouldn't you say that most people get to that breaking point of like yelling like that when they've also waited, like they've had that grumble like 70 times instead of 3, and that's what causes the outburst?
Exactly, for sure. Right. But we would tell you don't start that way anyway. So the hard conversation might go, Brett, listen, I need to have this conversation with you. I don't really want to have the conversation, but I'm committed to our partnership and our effectiveness in our house. And I've noticed that there's something that's been annoying to me, and I've been a complete chicken about discussing with you because it's so small. It's almost embarrassing that I even have it, except that we do better when we're in communication and dealing. And I know you would want to know this from me anyway. So one of the things, Brett, that we've agreed to is that unless we've changed it and I don't know about it and then we should change it, is that on the nights that I cook, you're in charge of cleanup. And I've noticed that for like the last 3 times I've cooked, you haven't. And so I've started to get mad at you, and that's not my commitment. But I've also been a chicken to come and have the conversation with you. So some version of that. But it's got to be with a frame.
And the frame in that one was like that I'm really committed to our relationship.
They're always like that, right?
Yeah.
They're always. So like if you're my friend and you're the one that like always picks the dinner and never listens to me, I would go, Brett, listen, I love you. I love you. We've been friends for friggin' years. But I noticed that I've started to be upset about something and I haven't said anything. And that's just crazy because I love you, you love me. And, we've been best friends forever. And so I want to tell you this thing that's been upsetting with me, to me, and let's work it out. And then if you have anything that you're upset with me about, you should let me know. I would assume you might have a few things. So when you ask me where we want to go to dinner, I don't know if you do this, but you ask me and then I tell you and then we never go there. And I know you're not being, there's something, but either I want you to not ever ask me and just pick the restaurant because where you pick is fabulous. I just get annoyed you asked me and then you never listen. Do you know you do that? Okay, you get the point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the most important thing is frame. And then it's not going to attack them, right? It's not, it could be, listen, Brett, I'm always committed to our relationship and you know that. And the other day I got hurt by something that you did. And I know you absolutely did not do it on purpose. I don't even know what you did, but I want to tell you I got upset and offended. And so I want to tell you because I'm committed to our partnership. So can I tell you what happened? So you see how what I'm doing is creating it so that you don't go on the defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to have to now go on the defensive, explain yourself or anything. The truth is I've been a chicken. I have not come to you, or I've been a brat. I am committed to our relationship and I want to fix this thing. And you probably don't even know you do it, or you don't even know I get upset by it because I never tell you.
Yeah,
Bosses don't know that they've offended you if you don't tell them. Most people in corporations, if you get upset, it's like they don't even know. They're moving 1,000 miles an hour and they don't know that you just got upset by that, and they would want to know. I know you think, oh no, my boss wouldn't want to know. Yes, they would, because they know that if you're unhappy, you're not going to be productive, and they want your productivity. Your husband does want to know if you got a list on him. And listen, if you're walking around with a list on him, likely he's got one on you too. So you might want to find out. But the hard conversations, it's just simply you're framing it. You're letting them know what didn't work. And then you're asking for something. So can I get you to, please, whatever it is. Can I get you to clean the dishes and can you clean them that night? Can we make that work?
Yeah, it's like being really upfront and just asking for what you want as opposed to just staying in your head.
You attack them, you're dead. They're going to go on the defensive and they're coming after you.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things I noticed in all your examples that you did with your language that I think would be helpful to recap for people. So you use the word I'm committed a lot. Like I'm committed to our friendship, I'm committed to our marriage, I'm committed to, our relationship, whatever it is. I think that's a really nice way to help set up the frame.
It's a frame. It's rather than go punching into even though I am the mother and I have a 16-and-a-half-year-old daughter, if I really want the discipline and the conversation to work, can't just go in, well, I'm the mother and here's what we're going to do now. And she'll roll her eyes in her head and maybe she'll do it, maybe she won't, versus like, okay, no, wait a minute. Let me have a conversation, honey. Okay, I need to tell you something that really didn't work for me. That kind of sucks. And we need to come up with a new rule about it versus I'm going to now attack you, make you feel like crap.
Right. So it's like you say what you're committed to. The next part is almost like you relieve them of any fault. Like you say something like, you probably don't even know you're doing this.
Just probably they don't get up in the morning to not do the dishes and get you upset. Ooh, let me not do that.
Yeah, no.
Ooh, let me ask my friend what she wants to do for dinner and then never listen to her because that's the kind of friend I am. Okay, really? Okay, sure. There are some real jerks in the world. You can give me the examples. Of course you can, of the real bullies, of the jerks, of that. Okay, but let's assume we're not talking to them.
Right. So you resolve them of fault. And then it's almost like I noticed in your examples, you own that it's something that you've been thinking about that you haven't said out loud. Like you own that piece of it.
Which is true, right? It's definitely true. Everyone who needs to have a hard conversation, likely you've been grumbling for more than 2 times, right? So you're going to have to own your part in it. Like your part in you could have gotten this resolved months ago.
Owning your part. Yeah, I like that. Own your part and then you have a little script.
Right. And then you want to get it resolved. Like, what's the new rules? What's the new agreement?
Right. And that could involve an ask, like a direct ask.
Right. Listen, can I have you? Could you? Exactly. You don't want to walk away. A lot of times what happens is because you're so excited, you survive the hard conversation, you walk away without new rules or new promises inside of what you've just communicated.
Yeah, so there should be like a new something that's established by the conversation.
And it really could be, if you really have been a chicken with your friend and you are known for letting people get away with crap all over the place, and you're now going to start being a different kind of friend that they're not used to, you really want to create a conversation. Go, listen, I listen to this podcast. I've realized I've been a complete chicken in my relationship with all of you. And I'm now taking on not being that. And I have a promise to speak up and let you know if I'm upset about anything. And so this might be shocking to you because, I've been the friend who, is a yes to everything. And in fact, it's not really true. And so there's going to be a new friend. So it's one of the things that I tell executives are, if you're going to start being different than how they're used to, because you've trained them to know you never speak up, and you're now going to start speaking up, you better warn them. But this is the new me. And if you don't like it, then, what am I going to do? I need to speak up, and you want me to speak up.
Those of you that tuned in to Tuesday's episode, you know that Beth and I were talking before the show began, and she was saying how she really is focused on athletes and executives, and I was telling her about my love of yoga. And I just want to reiterate now again here as we're talking about this, like how interrelated all of this is. For example, when we think about grumbling or inner dialogue, I think those of us in the yoga world, Beth, we talk about how like attention goes where energy flows, right? So if all your attention is going towards like the grumble, for those of my yogis out there listening, that's literally like your prana, your life force, your vitality that could be used towards like raising consciousness, achieving your dreams. Your prana's like instead like thinking this thought over and over and over again about someone, like this grumble. And it's such an inefficient use of energy, right? Like it's so attached and related to the subtle body. So much, I think, even like the areas of life in the work that you do is related to the chakra system. Like we're all really talking about the same thing, which is like, how can we have clear, beautiful, bright energy? Or in Kundalini yoga, like we talk about our aura. Like your aura is not bright when you're like grumbling in your head. Like I always think about it, like when I have these conversations, difficult conversations, or I'm living in integrity and clear with the people around me, like I'm living in clear space with them, my aura feels bright, right? While when I have this like inner dialogue of like grumbling about them or not having the difficult conversation, like that is, I am not radiant. I am not living in my truth.
For sure, right. Your radiance would be you're being an author. You're happy, you're proud, like what we call it as in you're being an author. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it's so related. I'm so glad you came on the show, Beth. Thank you so much for being with us. Is there any parting words or things that you wanted to touch on that we missed that you want to share before we let you go? I mean, this is such powerful work, and I don't know if there's something we missed or there's any like common pitfalls you want to share with folks.
I think we covered it all. I think the thing I would underline that you pointed to that I loved, which is you got to have fun with this. The more you have a sense of humor about, my sister the other day, Lauren Zander, who invented the Handel method, that's our maiden name. And then she and I built the company, but she's 11 years younger than me. She is my boss, an honor of that totally. And she should be. The other day she nailed me. She's like, Beth, you are the sexiest number 2 I've ever met. And that was not a compliment. Okay. Because I'm a number 1. And when I don't want to be a number 1, I hide out as a number 2 so that I don't have to be accountable, right? And she was like, you are the sexiest number 2 I ever met. I had the funniest day of my life that day because it was so funny to me to be the sexiest number 2, which is so not me because I'm a 1. And it was the humor of my jerkiness freed me up, right? And so the key is, even though this is deep stuff and it's profound and it's life altering, you want to have humor. You want to have a sense of humor about, we didn't invent human being, and whoever did, rock on, but it's just funny, right? And so have fun with your chicken and brat. Do not beat yourself up about it. This is not stuff to beat yourself up about. Have fun with hearing them and then getting yourselves in promises and consequences. And even when you break the promise and have to pay the consequence, and that's annoying, the moment you pay it, you're back in integrity and you're back to square one again, and you're winning already, right? So just have fun with it.
So what you're saying is when she made that comment, it triggered a lot of your like inner dialogue voices, and you had fun that day, like listening to all of them.
It was so funny to meet sexy number 2 and what she does and where she hides and how she does it. So it's fun to actually catch yourself not being 100%. Don't have it be a whole pity party. It's just not worth it.
I love it. Beth, how can people stay connected with you and find you specifically if they want to learn more?
Sure. Handel Group, so Handel, handelgroup.com, and Beth at handelgroup.com.
Perfect. And we also have, I think, a giveaway for listeners too, handelgroup.com/hard convo. Hard convo. If some of you who are listening want kind of like a recap or just a little bit more information about.
Yeah, you get that. Yes.
You get that at that download link, handelgroup.com/hard convo. And
you can always find me on my website with my email, and totally you can email me.
Perfect. Well, Beth, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Did you have some aha moments? Do you realize you need to go out and have some difficult conversations with people? Make sure to let me know in the comments down below. You can also connect with me in the Savannah East private Facebook group. And remember, making a purchase on savannahspirit.com is what keeps this podcast going. You can find anything that your heart desires on there related to yoga and meditation and spiritual living, and use that code podcast30 for 30% off your first order. I'm sending you so much love from my heart to yours. Namaste.
You've been listening to the Savannah Podcast. To find out more about Savannah, go to savannahspirit.com or follow Savannah on Facebook at facebook.com/SavannahSpirit. For daily inspiration, check out our blog at savannahEast.com. Be sure to join us next week for a new episode, and thank you for listening to the Savannah Podcast.